Despite the rise in COVID-19 cases and the challenges of operating in different stages of lockdown across the country, all businesses are getting on with business. The media and entertainment industry was severely affected in the months of April, May and June, with broadcast television having no fresh content and some niche channels having to shut down. But OTT or streaming services have experienced a surge in subscribers and content production has resumed again. To get a sense of the new normal today, I'm talking to Puneet Goenka, Managing Director and CEO of Zee Entertainment. What started as India's first satellite TV channel in 1992 has morphed into one of India's top diversified entertainment companies, certainly the largest that's publicly listed, with a huge presence globally. Besides the challenge of the pandemic, though, Zee Entertainment has had a tumultuous time in the past year, with the founder, Subhash Chandra's promoter group having had to bring down its share of the company to a little over 4%. Puneet, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Anuradha, for having me on.
Let's start with what you've, in the last week, described as Zee 4.0, which is sort of shorthand to describe how you see your vision for this company going forward in the current media landscape. You want to tell us a little bit about how COVID-19 is going to impact this Vision 4.0 or Zee 4.0?
Absolutely. So when I was writing the vision of Zee 4.0, I kept in mind the current situation that we are undergoing, which is the COVID-19 or the pandemic, whatever you want to call it. But I said we have to look beyond what is currently our situation, and that's what the mantra at Zee has always been. And so we have to lead by example so that the market, once it opens up, we are ready to encash on that going forward. If you look at the comeback of original content, both for our OTT service, our music label, our television network, we were one of the first to start. And we will continue to keep striving for the new reality that stares at us. And we are seeing recovery already in the monetization of the business. We have seen on the subscription side, the consumers' willingness to pay continue. On the advertising side, things will be a little bit slower, but I'm pretty confident that by the festive season, things should be back to normal.
By the festive season, things should be back to normal. Is that being overtly optimistic at this point of time? Because a lot of businesses that have been reporting, and if you look at your own recently released results, ad revenues have been down, last quarter, and that is the one before April, May, June, which is when COVID came in.
I've always been an optimist in my entire career, whether it was at Zee or even before that. So that comes naturally to me. I think having said that, I'd like to point out that the second half of last year itself started seeing a reduction in advertising spend on account of the economic slowdown.
Yes.
And then we have seen the pandemic or the COVID-19 impact. So even the normal for H2 of the current fiscal will be, in my view, a lower than the expected market growth. So not just the reduction in last year's spend, plus the growth that we would have lost for the current fiscal, all coupled together will be still a significant degrowth for the market.
Give us a sense of what those pandemic months were like in terms of coming back to, getting content on air, getting back to functioning, getting back to operations.
During the early days, for me and for the company specifically, I think the most crucial part was the safety and the health of the human capital at Zee. And we were focusing all our attention towards that. Coming from there, we were working very hard with the state governments and the industry associations to start content production as soon as possible, so that the consumers who were losing out on their favorite shows or their favorite content, we could serve them back as soon as possible. There also, we engaged heavily with the industry bodies, the state government, so that even when we return with production, it is keeping the health and safety of all involved in mind. And if you look at today, our production capability is up almost 60-70% from the regular normal, which I am hopeful in the next 3 months we are able to bring it back to 100%.
Puneet, you mentioned the economic slowdown that had started already before COVID came, and sort of smack bang in the middle of it. Ad revenues have declined. What is it that you see in terms of an economic scenario recovery, and how do you see advertisers behave in terms of their spends going forward?
So I think it's a question of what happens first, right? So as long as we can demonstrate that the consumer is willing to come out there to consume content slash products, the advertisers will follow. And that's where we wanted to lead by example when we did the entire July 13 coming back campaign to tell our viewers that we are back in their lives just the way we were earlier. And as you would have seen, the advertisers have followed. And I do expect that innovations like this will further drive the recovery faster. And I'm sure the advertisers will partner with people like us and my peers to do the same.
Do you see any diffidence on the part of advertisers in the sense of the overall economic scenario and their revenues and their ability to generate revenues?
I think advertisers will focus on getting access to the consumers at the end of the day, and we are in the business of providing consumers and eyeballs to these advertisers. Uh, as far as the advertisers mix goes, it's ever evolving. People have chosen mediums based on their needs of the certain time that they're in, and we will see certain evolution in terms of the mediums going forward that the advertisers choose.
Give me a sense of subscription revenues, because you have reported that subscription revenues have gone up, and yet we know that you and broadcasters have gone on often enough about the challenge that the TRAI's NTO has posed. You have to publish new prices by the first week of August. A lot of people say that COVID-19 is not as big a problem for broadcasters as the NTO has been.
Well, firstly, let me clarify, Anuradha. When NTO 1 came out last year, we actually welcomed that change as Z, because we believe that the transparency in the system will definitely help the overall ecosystem. And this complete misnomer that one stakeholder is making more money versus the other. But the sudden thing to change again within a year of implementation is something that I did not agree with at all. Because more than for us, it is a change for the consumer. Even if you look at NTO 1.0, that had taken almost 3 to 4 months to settle down before the consumer went back to either making their choice or subscribing to the package as put out by DPOs, etc. Another change of that nature will just, I think, create a lot of confusion in the mind of the consumer. Secondly, such frequent changes will again hamper the consumer, because a lot of genres that we all operate in as content creators and content providers, it may not be effectively viable to run those anymore. Right?
Is
So,
it
for
true
example,
that
the
some
niche
100,
genre,
150 channels might shut as a result of this?
I would certainly think that the number will be a large number. Whether it's 100 and 150 is a question of how the networks support their smaller channels. But if I was just to look at an economical viability perspective, it could be even higher than 100 channels. So from that perspective, at the end, it's again the consumer who ends up paying, because they get a lesser choice. Frequent changes to regulation are not going to help the industry, and therefore not going to help the consumer.
Give us a sense of why this price cap of 12 rupees, which is currently being mandated, how does that make channels unviable, especially the special interest and the niche channels?
I have no clue of how these numbers have been arrived at, unfortunately, because uh, my view is that it should be a free market. The broadcasters and the DPO should be allowed to price their services freely, and the consumer is smart enough to make the choice. So, I mean, regulation should only be that we are not forcing the consumer to buy something that they don't want to. Beyond that, the pricing should be left to market forces. So I don't know how to comment on whether it's the 19 rupee price cap or the 12 rupee price cap, which is relevant or not relevant.
Why do you think the government assurances and the INB Minister Prakash Javadekar assurances have not come good?
Well, I think, this matter is sub judice, and the more I talk about it, the more I expose myself and my colleagues from the industry. So I think you have enough information on that to put it together and put it to your viewers. I have said what I had to say there.
Fair enough. Tell me, is Z Cafe going to survive this? Because we are hearing other broadcasting groups like Sony and Star saying that English general entertainment channels are shut. They've shut their offerings.
Yeah, again, I think people make and try and put one versus the other. To say that a English genre channel is shutting down purely on account of NTO is also not entirely correct. Because what you saw during the COVID-19 lockdown situation, a lot of the consumption of English language content is what moved to OTT platforms. Because it was available far more freely and far more at the convenience of the consumer,
right,
than other content was. So it's a combination of the two. If I look at purely the economics of running a channel like Z Cafe, one can take a view that yes, it should be shut down. But if I look at the totality of the content that we buy, which is served on both Z Cafe, the linear channel,
and Z5,
and the OTT platform of Z5, it probably makes sense to continue.
Give me the experience of Z5, or what the experience of Z5 has been, given that that is where all media and entertainment companies are looking at for the future of the business, which is digital streaming, video on demand.
So I think it's again a complex one. I think they're absolutely right that the future of media and entertainment will move towards streaming and consumption of content at the preferred time and the choice of the consumer. But I don't foresee that happening, or at least any OTT platform in our country, individually or even collectively, being able to give the reach that a TV channel or a mass TV network can offer. Having said that, as I said, genre by genre, things will change. Some will become more pro OTT, and some genres will remain predominantly still television driven. We are seeing this trends more faster in the developed nations like Western Europe as well as in America, where adoption of OTT versus the linear TV format is happening much faster. And similarly, Z5 or Z will take those proactive decisions of even taking harsh decisions like shutting some of our linear services in the international market and being available only on the Z5 platform.
What is interesting is that a lot of the conversation or a lot of the chatter or mind space has been taken over by the streaming services, isn't it? Do you feel somewhere that that the digital OTT streaming services, because also of the mobile only plans and really affordable subscription plans, will give competition to broadcast television, even though you say that broadcast television delivers a reach today that no other platform does?
Let me flip it to myself as a consumer. On any OTT platform, until I don't consume it on a television screen, I don't get the experience of the content. So from that perspective, just buying a only mobile plan will never replace the predominant first screen, which is TV itself. Right? If you look at even the trend in the Western world, where we are seeing OTT penetration growing much faster than television.
It's viewing on television.
It's still viewing on television.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, this nomenclature of just going only mobile plan, taking away audiences from television is going to be not a reality.
But what about audiences watching OTT or streaming on TV like it has happened in the Western world?
Absolutely, and that's an audience base which is something that a company like mine will be tapping. So, the reason that we exist is not only to do linear broadcasting of content, and I keep saying this in no uncertain words, that our reason for existence is reaching out to the maximum number of audiences, irrespective of the platform and the device they want to consume on.
this is a new year, new decade. You're talking about Z 4.0. What is the share of revenues that digital will contribute going forward?
So my expectation is still not changed. I mean, I had forecasted that digital will constitute about 30% of the revenue of Z in the next 3 to 5 years. That pretty much stands still.
Has there been no acceleration because of the lockdown allowing people to sample and maybe even adopt?
Unfortunately, not really in the advertising driven part of it, because it was dependent heavily on content that we produce for television
Right.
or linear broadcast.
Right.
We have seen acceleration in terms of subscription revenue happening on that account. But it's a combination of both that will drive it, right? And the moment television comes back to its regular growth of low double digits, there's that much more catch up that OTT will have to do. So I'm being cautious there to say that 30% is still a safe assumption for you to go.
This has been a tumultuous year for Z as a company. I referred to that right in the beginning of the show. Do you want to tell us, how you have dealt with the fact that things have changed around you, even though the role you perform may be the same. You are still the CEO and managing director of Z Entertainment, and yet as the promoter shareholding has gone down less than 5% today, it has changed the nature of your relationship with the company. Would you say that, even if not your role?
Well, yes and no, Anuradha, because even earlier stage, while yes, the economic interest that I had in the company was far greater than what I have today, as you rightly pointed out, and that was the single most biggest reason for me to define the 5Gs as I did in that letter of mine,
To
because
shareholders, yes.
the shareholders that these are the 5 pillars on which I will drive the company going forward, and the reason to do that was, while I had a larger share, you would have assumed I was doing this. Now that I don't have a larger share, I will communicate a lot more to demonstrate what I'm doing under each of these Gs. So that's the only addition to my role, if at all, apart from making sure that we continue to remain true to our DNA of creativity and content creation, remain true to our ability for growth and profitability. So these are two big things which will never change, let's see.
Give me a sense of how you assess the mindset of investors who, in spite of your assurances, still want to know what is it that motivates you to manage this company when your ownership has gone down.
Uh, Rather, it's a very tough question to answer, but I'll give it an attempt. When I joined the company in 2006, a lot of people asked that you got asked Dr. Chandra that you got your son to run this business. He's at best a BCom and has never probably created a single piece of content in his life, far from even watching any of the Indian content. How do you expect him to run this company? And instead of him answering, I answered. I said, I will have to learn very slowly, very painfully, and demonstrate that I can do it. And that answer holds true even for this question that you're asking.
When you are tasked with what you have, you are trying to start on a clean slate. When you keep hearing these questions, what do they do to you?
I think in the last 18 months or so there, while the promoter group or promoter family has gone through whatever we have gone through, I have learned a lot from this phase in my life. And now these things don't bother me. And you can see that when I come back to work with the same gusto, the team that I'm building here, the company is reorganizing itself in terms of the future and the new normal. I feel like I've come back with renewed energy to this place with something that I have to deliver on, and that's what keeps me going.
You talked in that letter to shareholders that you mentioned about, the financial headwinds experienced by the promoter group, and the dent on your goodwill, giving you some things to think about. What are some of those things, Puneet, that you feel you need to, as the managing director and CEO of this company, with your new board, have to focus on going forward?
See, I think the fact of the matter is that in the past 18 months or so, whatever the promoters may have gone through in terms of the financial headwinds, the things at Z were as normal as always. I may not have been around as much as I used to be during those 18 months because I was working on trying to solve other issues. But the goodwill part that has got dented is only on the reputation and potentially which reflects in the current market cap of the company. And that being said, my view is that I have a point to prove not just for myself, not just for my family, but
Sure.
all the stakeholder and the employees who work for Z, that we are definitely not a company worth what we are worth today on the stock exchange. And we have come back with that renewed energy to prove that to those people who have put us in that corner or tried to put us in that corner.
Earlier on, you stepped off the board of Z Media. Do you want to tell us why you did that?
I think, frankly, all of the questions you just asked me are talking about the fact that I need to focus and deliver on what I have committed for Z Entertainment. And if there's anything that distracts me from that, I personally am not going to be willing to do that. Therefore, I have taken it upon myself to relinquish all my roles and responsibilities at the SL Group level and focus entirely and solely on Z Entertainment.
So many challenges, internally, externally, the macro environment. Where are you looking for inspiration?
My inspiration since, I can recall has been my father, and that's not going to change. It's going to remain there itself. And the second part of my inspiration just comes from my own ability and this thing to take anything head on. And I'll continue to do that going forward as well. And to me, every challenge is an opportunity. So from that perspective, that's what keeps me going.
I really like the fact that you mentioned Dr. Subhash Chandra, the man who started Z. When you wrote that letter and when you talked about and acknowledged his bold vision, you also talked about how many people may have questioned some of the steps taken by him in the recent past. Do you feel that you've got to, how do you have to manage his legacy? Because he's created something and then today there are challenging situations because of other decisions that may have made.
His legacy cannot be challenged. He did create an industry from thin air. So nobody can challenge that. I hope I can even do a fraction of what he has been able to deliver for this country and for this nation at large. So I don't want to get into what right and wrong he did.
Sure.
I think the fact of the matter is that he is a visionary, and any pioneer has their own vision and their own way of looking at things. I will never have that, but I have my own way of looking at things and what I want to achieve. And we'll focus on that now going forward.
Right. Puneet, you've talked often enough in this letter about wanting to start with a clean slate. There have been charges against Z for being evasive and not being transparent enough. How much of this, how much will this be a priority?
It is the first priority. If you look at the first G itself is governance.
Yes.
The second G is granularity. Both go hand in hand. So I will be very transparent and very, very clear in terms of our policies, financial policies that the company will adopt going forward. They will be in public domain. We will be giving far more granular data in terms of our key performance indexes, whether it be just for the broadcasting business or for the digital business. So you will see a lot more information coming out of the company henceforth.
Well, Puneet, we wish you good luck. One final question. Do you get time to watch anything, given what your work life looks like at this point of time?
Frankly, Anuradha, if I didn't watch anything, I won't remain sane. So I am the biggest consumer of my own content, actually. And that's what keeps my people in check.
That's wonderful. Puneet, thank you very much for joining us. Stay safe. We wish you and all your associates and colleagues at Z Entertainment a lot of good luck on this new journey that you've embarked on. Thank you for joining us.
Same here, Anuradha. Stay safe. Wish everybody at CNBC TV 18 from our side, be healthy.
Thank you very much. And thank you for watching. We'll be back again with another conversation that's a deep dive on the media dialogue. So do look out for that and stay tuned to CNBC TV 18.